Hello, let's talk about art as confrontation. Sometimes artists make work that is uncomfortable on purpose. Sometimes it's meant to challenge you. Sometimes they think that it's really cool and pretty, but it just rubs you the wrong way. So let's take a look at those varieties of work. We're going to start with Max Ernst. Max Ernst was part of the Dada movement. Obviously, this is a very surreal image. A lot of his work is based kind of in this dreamscape or nightmarescape. We see things that we kind of recognize, but it's also this like really dystopian, kind of creepy, monster-esque worlds that he's creating. I think that they're fascinating. Some people might be more uncomfortable with them, but this is certainly artwork that is not something that you see in a gallery and go, oh, that's beautiful. A lot more complicated than that. He also made a series of prints of etchings or engravings, and here you can see more of that kind of dreamscape, nightmare scenes, people with bird heads, again, very dystopian. And then we're going to move into Ad Reinhardt. And Ad Reinhardt is really interesting because he was kind of the first person to move into minimalism. And as you can see from this image, he just painted a bunch of canvases completely black. So we can look at his rules that he was kind of setting up for a new academy. He was sick of the traditional art world. So he wanted no texture, no brushwork, no drawing, no forms, design, color, light, space, time, no size or scale, no movement, no objects. And he put this out in 1953. A lot of artists after him also went on to make this much more minimal work. This is a little comic that he drew, someone looking at abstract, non-representational art and saying, what does this represent? And then the painting gets mad back at the guy and says, what do you represent? Very much criticizing and critiquing the way that the art world was functioning. And a lot of people got really upset by this. This is a different artist. This is a sculptor named Roy McMakin. And as you can see here, he is creating these sculpture pieces that, if you lean toward the OCD side, might make you feel really uncomfortable because they're just not right. So here we have a chest of drawers where the top is not in line with the bottom. You have this big black square, couch cushion where the separation is missing on one side. This is kind of like a floating dresser kind of thing that is pinned to the ground with a post, a chair with extra long legs that you probably couldn't sit in. This is the one for me where I'm like, I don't like that at all. Alexander McQueen, also someone that absolutely creates artwork in fashion that is meant to be confrontational. You're probably familiar with Alexander McQueen, very world famous fashion designer. Some of his work is really beautiful and meant for the red carpet, but others, like this one, are meant to kind of make you uncomfortable. Um, he finds a lot of beauty in darkness and often is working to make the viewer feel a little bit uncomfortable and ask questions. And is this fashion, or like, is this normal? Is this something we should be wearing? And then you have the more kind of traditional stuff here. His looks were absolutely used and inspired the outfits from the Hunger Games. So if you've seen the Hunger Games, you know that that is a very dystopian um, series. And so pulling his kind of weird out of this world fashion makes a lot of sense. This is a painter named Jenny Saville. Jenny Saville is one of my favorite artists. She makes work about the human body and emotion, and it is not like a beautiful portrait. It's very much looking at the human body in a way that is a bit more grotesque, but also really honest. Um, Not looking and objectifying women specifically as a sexual object, but looking at humans in general. And she works obviously a lot with flesh tones, but revealing the psyche in a lot of ways. So again, portraying people in a very realistic way. This one is a little bit more abstract, right? But this brings a lot of emotion. And this is a self-portrait of her children. This is a Iranian artist named Shirin Neshat. And she makes work and she takes photographs and has made some films and I think even an opera. Um, Her work is very much about contrasting the Islamic world and the Western world. It's about femininity, it's about public and private life, it's about violence versus devotion to God. And so she has these series of photographs where there's all these women holding weapons, but then across their faces are these really beautiful poems. So about control and control of one's life versus being controlled. I think there's a video of hers linked in our Moodle page. This is from her opera. This is a group called the Guerrilla Girls. I believe they were founded in the early 80s. And it is guerrilla kind of like going rogue and on the defense. So they always wear these masks to protect their identities, but they're very much about exposing sexism within the art world and other places. Very much calling out American culture and how women are not often given the same representation in the government, in arts, in film, right here. Do women have to be naked to get into the Met Museum? Less than 3% of the artists in the modern art section are women, but 83% of the nudes are female. Very much political in a lot of ways, but very kind of cheeky in the way that they're doing things as well. So they are they're putting this up on the public stage. This is an artist named Kara Walker, a contemporary African American artist that is still practicing today. And she mostly works in cutout silhouettes, and a lot of her work is dealing with slavery and the echoes of slavery, power contemporarily, and race relations today and racism, but definitely using these silhouettes that you think are pretty simple when you start looking at them, but they're actually quite detailed and tell a story about power and regaining power and struggle and control. She also did this giant installation in the Domino Sugar Factory in New York, I think in 2013. And so this giant sculpture here is completely made out of sugar, and it's meant to be commentary on slavery and the enslaved peoples and the work and sugar plantations. And then there's a bunch of these little characters, these little statuettes that are hanging around as well that are making a commentary back to the times of slavery and the work that was put in and the credit that was never given or received. Video of hers on Moodle as well. Here is a Pakistani artist named Imran Qureshi. And uh, a lot of these images that I'm going to show you are from an installation that he did on the roof of the Met in New York City. His work is very much about war and bombing and very much reactionary to terrorism. This piece is called How Many Rains Must Fall Before All the Stains Are Washed Clean? And this is about despair and trauma, and somehow life goes on and somehow hope is regained. So finding somehow some beauty in all of the horrors that are surrounded with war. Barbara Kruger was a graphic designer. She worked with magazines. And when she stopped working at magazines, she went on to make her own work. It's very graphic, text-based, and very much about politics, obviously feminism here and sexism, but also about American consumerism and kind of like putting these things directly up in your face, kind of like the Guerrilla Girls did, but it's much more individualized. Like it makes you think about yourself, I think. Your gaze hits the side of my face. I think this one is very poignant and easy to understand what Barbara Kruger is getting at. This is the last artist that we're going to look at. So this is an artist named Santiago Sierra, and he made artwork that was about human bodies and compensation and what what is money and how does that work with the human body and what we value. So in this image here, these women were drug addicts, and he paid them to allow him to tattoo a straight line across all of their backs. And he knew that they would take the money and go and probably buy drugs. And so the thing is, like, what is it worth? He did something here with this image where he hired these men to come in, paid them minimum wage, and all they did was stand there and hold these big boxes or blocks on their shoulders for 4 hours at a time, had a lunch break, came back, did this again for 4 hours, paid a minimum wage, and it's just not accomplishing anything. So that's the commentary that he's making. Like, what are we using these bodies for if we're not accomplishing anything? And these guys probably needed the money, but this was in a gallery and everyone was like, what are you doing? Paid some migrant workers to be photographed, but to turn away from the camera. And here, this is a really poor quality image, but what's going on here is he, again, has paid some people minimum wage to sit inside these boxes within a gallery for 4 hours, come out, have a lunch break, go back in for 4 hours, and then the day is done. Obviously, this would be quite disturbing if you were to see this in a gallery, and the higher ups in the museum were very, very not cool with this. And he explained to them, yeah, that's the point of this. I need to make you feel uncomfortable. And he pointed out that there are security guards in the museum that are just sitting in a room not much bigger or even as big as these boxes, that someone is sitting in there all day long just watching the cameras, only gets to come out to eat lunch and then goes back into that box and sits there all day long. That guy is probably serving more of a purpose, but he's making a commentary on, what money is worth versus, the realities of being a human in a human body. Okay, so there are a bunch of videos for you on Moodle. So please take a look at some of those and see what you like, and go ahead and complete the assignment and let me know what makes you feel uncomfortable in artwork. All right, have a good one. Thanks.